Broadcasting live from the Jersey Shore, it's Coach Kev on the Damage 365 Radio Network.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode here at the Indie Super Show on the Damage 365 Radio Network, also being broadcasted on Spotify and iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Coach Kev, leading you the way today. We have another great interview lined up, but as always, we ask that you sit back and relax and take a listen to our sponsors and help continue to support your mom and pop stores in your area. So when this is all over and done with, they are still there, serving our communities as strong as ever.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
This is the War Machine Rhino, the last ever ECW World Heavyweight Champion, and you're listening to Damage 365 Radio. Keep listening or you'll get gored in half.
Esposito's Pizza and Pasta. Check us out at one of our fine locations, 930 Route 34 in Matawan, New Jersey, or 233 East Main Street in Manasquan, New Jersey. From pizza and salads to pasta and buffalo wings, we have something to suit every member of your family. Whether you're seeking to take out, delivery, or you just want to dine in, let us do the dishes, as we will be more than happy to take care of your next meal. Our courteous and friendly restaurant staff is here to meet and exceed all your expectations. We promise an enjoyable experience each and every time we serve you. Try our award-winning sesame crust pizza, our recent winner at the Las Vegas Pizza Open. Visit us online at sesameseedpizza.com for store hours, menus, and phone numbers to one of our great locations. Esposito's Pizza and Pasta, so close to eating at Mom's, but without all the yelling.
Hey, this is Bruce Pritchard, and you are listening to Damage 365 Radio. But I need you to know something. Just because I love you doesn't mean I like you.
Hey, wrestling promoters and booking agents, you know where you can get inexpensive prints of your higher talent? Right here at Fast Copy Printing Center, located in the Pearl of the Bayshore. That's right, whether you need 8x10s, 11x14s, posters, long format, or even weatherproof signs, we can do it all. We also can create promotional items for your business, such as pens, business cards, drink koozies, banners, or just a coffee mug. Stop on down to Fast Copy Printing Center, 81 Broad Street in Keyport, New Jersey, or call us at 732-739-4646. No job is too big and satisfaction is guaranteed. Tell them Damage 365 sent you.
This is Lanny Poffo, formerly the genius full of glory and renown. You are listening to Damage 365 Radio.
the Funkenstein Wrestling Superstore, selling wrestling memorabilia from all around the world, including WWE, Impact, ROH, Japan, Mexico, and the Indies. They sell action figures, lucha masks, t-shirts, trading cards, magazines, DVDs, autographs, collectibles, vintage video games, and more. Stop in to get tickets for local independent wrestling such as UWA Elite, CZW, and Synergy Wrestling. Located indoors at the world-famous Englishtown Flea Market, Blue Building with 45 through 48, 90 Wilson Avenue in Manalapan Township, New Jersey. Open every Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. all year round. Visit them at Facebook at facebook.com/Funkenstein Inc. New Jersey's largest wrestling store is the Funkenstein Wrestling Superstore. Tell them Damage 365 sent ya.
Attention everyone, this is Allie, and you're listening to Damage 365 Radio.
The following announcement has been paid for by the New World Order.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for taking the time to listen to our sponsors. And once again, we ask that you help, contribute, and support your mom and pop stores in your area, because when this pandemic or whatever it is that we're going through right now is hopefully soon long gone, we do not want our mom and pop stores to be long gone as well. We want them to continue to thrive before, during, and after. And at this time, we'd like to welcome in our guest of the show. She is one of the original superstars. I mean, at this point, we call it superstars of Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling Hollywood. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me on your show. Wow, that was really sweet. That was nice. Nice introduction.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I mean, I grew up. I grew up watching, here and there what I was allowed to, because my parents were a little confused about Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, because I was watching WWF when I was a kid, and and they see all these ladies wrestling, and they're like, "What is this? What are you watching? What is this? What is this?" And I'm like,
parents. They're good parents. My parents are the same way, man.
I was like, "It's wrestling." They're like, "No, you sure? What channel is this?"
Yeah, what channel? This is all women.
So I got to watch a little bit, and then I got to watch a little bit of it, as years went by, and then, YouTube and social media and Fire Sticks and all these other streaming services that we were able to obtain over the years, and we got to watch a little Glow Wrestling, and that made you appreciate what you guys were trying to do back then, that you really didn't have the chance to do on a main stage with companies like the WWF, which I guess at the time was pretty much all that was really available.
Yeah, correct.
So I mean, if you weren't an American
at least for television.
Yeah, absolutely.
At least for TV, right.
If you weren't a female American gladiator, then you were a Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling.
Oh my gosh, remember that show?
we had years ago, we had Zap on the show, and she was kind of scary when she was on that show.
You're so funny.
So, we segue in after our commercial about, the pandemic and everything that's going on in the world with the coronavirus, and even so going into like the rioting and protesting and things like that. And like, what are you doing to keep yourself safe and occupied?
Well, first of all, safe. That's the number one word. Is I just don't go out unless I have to, really. I mean, basically, go get your groceries. I wear my mask. I think that's just common sense. I go to the post office a lot because I'm also, we'll get to that part what I'm making here in a second, but the post office, I go there. And, most of the things are drive-throughs, so those are safe. I cook a lot more at home, but then you get bored of that. I know everyone's getting bored, so you want to go and take out, go pick up, something different than what you're making. So for me, like I said, it's common sense to wear the mask when I go into the store, just because. And one of my reasons is my parents are they're elderly,
Right.
My dad had some surgery, and, you know, even though I may not have symptoms or I may be asymptomatic, what if I have it? And what if I give it to somebody who's, you know, it's one of those things. So I'd rather be safe than sorry. I guess I wouldn't want to drive without my seatbelt, and I probably wouldn't go out in the sun without sunscreen. It's kind of those same basics. That's kind of how I look at it. I'm not being political because I don't get into that crap at all. It's just that's what's keeping me safe.
I call it, you know, some people want to say, you know, oh, you know, it's an inconvenience, you know, it's this, it's that, you know, and look, we all have to go through it. It's not like, you know, it's only going on in New York or New Jersey or Florida. I mean,
or California.
I mean, it's a worldwide thing, and, you know, everybody's kind of dealing with it in their own way. And, you know, my whole thing is, you know, you want to wear a mask in public, you know, as far as like going to the store or going to the bank or, you know, anywhere where you have public interaction where, you know, sometimes you can't be 6 feet apart from each other. You know, if you're holding, you know, sometimes you're holding the door open for somebody to walk in. You're just being courteous, you know, and they got to walk past you. You know, to me, that's just called common courtesy. You know, just wear the mask out of common courtesy and respect for your fellow men and women and, you know, what they have to go home to. Because you don't know what they're going home to. They could be going home to somebody with cancer. They could be going to home with somebody with diabetes. You know, you don't know. So don't assume. Just wear your mask. It's you know, an hour of inconvenience if you're grocery shopping.
Exactly, or
know.
Less because you just want to get in and get out. That was basically
especially now because you get like I get like hot when I'm wearing those masks. You know, you like
we do.
You know, you breathe in your face basically, and
or your sunglasses or your glasses. If
you wear glasses, getting fogged up.
I mean, it is. But I mean, we all know what the alternative is, and we don't want that.
Right.
And we certainly don't want that for our loved ones. So could you imagine if you brought something home to your mother or father or grandma or grandpa or whatever, anybody for that matter. But yeah, we're on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's important. I have been doing this. I mentioned the post office that I go to quite a bit, and before I spoke with you, I had just went to the post office. About a year and a half ago, just for a hobby, I thought I want to make homemade soaps, like natural, and that's just something that I've always liked to buy. So I did some due diligence about, 2 years ago. How do you make it? What's in it? What makes it different? Why is it better if I don't have preservatives in it? Blah, blah, blah. Well, until I made it, my skin told me exactly why I make it because there's just so few preservatives in it. It's just like 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 oils, a little sodium hydroxide, and some distilled water, an essential oil, maybe some natural coloring, and then you have soap. So I just was playing around. This is before the pandemic. I'd make them, put them on the site. You know, somebody bought it, they would. Mom and give them for gifts. And then this pandemic hit, and all of a sudden we need to be washing our hands more. And then my soap started taking off even more. So it's something, I guess, that I enjoy. I probably wouldn't be doing it if I didn't like it, but I dig it, and I love it. There's something about it. Like some people like to cook. Some people love to wrestle. There's another thing. And then there's making soap. And that right now has been keeping me busy during this whole time. Plus exercise. I've been getting in way more exercise and eating a lot better, I guess.
Now, let me ask you something about your soap. You know, I mean, I've never worked in like a supermarket or anything that, you know, that ships the product. How, you know, and I know soap is very temperature sensitive. So how do you ship soap to somebody, and especially during the summer, and not have to worry about like them getting a puddle?
Right. Well, first of all, the soaps that I make have to cure first, and that means once I make that soap, I'll cut it up. It needs 3 to 4 weeks to cure, and that means all the water has to evaporate out of that bar of soap to keep it harder, so that it's not. But it doesn't melt because the oils that are not solid will become solid once it interacts with that sodium hydroxide.
Okay.
It's weird. And I have solid oils like coconut oil. If you've ever went to the market, and if you ever go, if you look at the oils, you go, oh, yeah, there's the coconut oil we're talking about. It shouldn't be liquid. It'll usually is a harder one, so when it's, maybe at 75 degrees, it's going to be melty, but they don't melt because once it interacts with that sodium hydroxide, there's this chemical reaction, and it turns into a harder bar of soap. Now, there are things that I sell, like shaving cream. That is something that I don't want to that will definitely melt, just as the way the consistency and what I use. Shea butter is real soft. Coconut oil gets soft too, but there's no sodium hydroxide in it. So those will be difficult to ship. And if I do it, I'm going to say, as soon as you get that package, put it in the refrigerator for 10 minutes and then leave it. It's fine to go. But other than that, the soaps that I'm making they're not going to disintegrate or melt in the mail, I promise.
Oh, okay. I was always curious about that.
That was a good question.
Because it's, I know a lot of this stuff has to be, kind of brought to almost like a liquid state to form and the shape and things like that.
That's it, yeah. You heat it all up. You heat it to a certain temperature. So I'll put all the oils together. I'll do a coconut oil, olive oil, maybe shea butter, and a castor oil. And this is not like castor oil for your car, but it's a castor oil that gives it bubbles. Okay, it gives it a little more bubbly effect. So those 4 oils, I will melt that all down to like probably maybe 80 degrees. Mm-hmm. And then you add your sodium, and it's a sodium hydroxide that you mix with water, and that temperature has to come down. So both of the oils will be around 80 to 85 degrees. You mix them together. There's your liquid state. And then something happens as soon as you pour that into your mold. Within 24 hours, it will be a firm loaf of. I call it loaf because it looks like loaves when you put them in the mold.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get to cut it. And then, like I said, I let it cure for 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'll send it out after that. And then I'll put it on. I have an Etsy site that I call Hollywood Botanica, and a website, Hollywood Botanica. So it's just very funny how sometimes you can, before things happen, you can be like one step above what's happening. That to me was weird how that happened. All of a sudden people wanted to wash their hands, and it's just word of mouth too. Somebody likes it, and then somebody else likes it, and this person likes it, and it goes and goes.
Yeah, word of mouth is something that can be a great tool, but it could also be a bad weapon too. It works both ways.
There's positive and there's negative.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
get away from that negative.
Yeah, well, in the wrestling industry, that happens very, very quickly, and then you have like that trickle effect, and before you know it, everybody knows everything about a topic, and then social media turns everybody into a professional.
Unbelievable. Social media. I love it, but sometimes I loathe it.
If it wasn't for my personal business, I wouldn't even be on it at this point anymore. It's just so aggravating.
You're so, Kevin, oh my God, you took the words right out of my mouth. I say the same thing. I remember when it first came out and I wasn't doing it, like, nope. And then, remember MySpace? I'm probably older than you.
No. MySpace. I absolutely remember MySpace, and it's the only arguments I would ever get into with people is like, how come I'm not on your top 8 friends? Right. And then when Twitter came, I was like, nope. And then I got rid of it. I remember having so many followers, and I'm like, I don't like this. And I deleted it. I did the same thing with Facebook right in the beginning. Yeah.
I'm like, But I'm like, you know what? This is for our business, and this is the only one of the best ways to get word of mouth out there is to have Twitter and to have Instagram and to have that old Facebook page.
Yeah, Twitter was limited, so with the limited characters that you can type on Twitter,
true,
it kind of worked in a positive way. So you couldn't get long-winded on what you were trying to say. You just abbreviated everything, or or put pictures with the text on the picture. You'd put that up there. But
you have it down.
Yeah,
you definitely have it down.
But Facebook, man, Facebook. I mean, it's just I've had it since day one when they only allowed you to go on it with a college email address, and Yeah, and
wow.
It was, then like 2 years later they opened it up, and it was oh my God, it was like hellfire. It was just everybody had it, and then MySpace was like gone. It was just like, you know.
I can't even remember what mine was called. I don't even know. Was it I don't know if I called it Hollywood or, was it my name? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think mine had, I had one for my name, and I think I had one for my softball team. We had music on it. You were able to custom change your backgrounds and all that fun stuff.
You're funny. I can't. That's great. Yeah, and then here we go, and here comes again Facebook. Going back to Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that people just feel the need? I guess they get really bold. People get really bold behind that screen, that they feel that they can just tear somebody down or say this or argue, and I hate it. That's the part I don't like.
I agree. I mean, I tell people, I'm like, look, if you're out here, shitting on somebody and you're spitting out facts, okay, fine. You know what? You had to get to a certain point of angry to get out on Facebook and get all that out there and detail, facts. But if you're on there just spewing stupidity and just ignorance and just showing your lack of education on the topic, it's just like, please just delete yourself.
Away.
Yeah, just remove yourself. It's great though, because to me, I call it natural selection when people do stuff like that. Because then I know who to delete immediately. I'm just like, all right, goodbye.
Yep, exactly. Block.
So
I try not to block.
I'd rather unfriend them than block them.
Yes, me too.
It has to be pretty extreme for me to block somebody.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. And I've had extreme before, but it just goes with the territory. If you are in the public eye, someone will find something about you. And bottom line, they just, no one's perfect. I get that. But, there's a lot of insecure, jealous people. And we already know that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
In my industry with the wrestling promoting and the vending and things like that, it's a tight-knit community. A lot of us know each other. And, when you got a couple that do some really, like, crappy things and some grimy things, it's makes us all look bad because in the eye of the customer, it's like, oh, well, they're probably all like that, and they've been, I got to look out, and and then I got to work harder to prove my worth to somebody and for them to trust me, and once in a while you got to put somebody on blast to kind of tell them to get their shit together because.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it's always me that has to do it because nobody else seems to have the cojones to do something like that.
Don't you hate that?
Oh, my God.
Somebody always has to be the leader.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I have been in that situation. Well, Hollywood, da-da-da-da, and I'm like, why?
Exactly. And then it's like, oh, everybody hates you. I'm like, well, whatever. If everybody hates me because I told the truth, then so be it.
Yes, exactly, because you cannot, if you're telling the truth, and that is the honest truth, I've been this, I'm like, okay, you guys, this is, I'm the type of person that, what is it? I mean, there is a lot of rules, and I didn't say regulations, but lots of rules in my household. My mom and dad, it was to be nice to people. It was don't say anything, that you wouldn't want coming back. It just, just lots of rules were instilled in us when we were kids. Chores was another one.
Yep.
Earning
an allowance.
I had to earn my allowance.
Yeah, it wasn't like I need new sneakers. All right, here's $200. Go buy them. No. It was right. The time I'd saved up for the sneakers I wanted to be out of style. And the new sneakers would be too expensive, so I had to start that evil cycle all over again.
Exactly. So, like I said, I always used to think my parents were being mean, but you know what?
No,
bless their hearts, man. I am so glad that and we got spankings. I'm sorry, but I'm probably from a different generation.
No, I got it. I'm from an Italian family, so I know all about it.
Me too. Oh yeah, me too. So that's a difference too. When you are brought up a certain way, that goes all the way through. It should anyway. It goes all the way through adulthood.
Yeah. And, I mean, I was born in '75, so I'm not that young.
No, the '70s, I love it.
Yeah.
I got '60s in there, but I kind of wish I was born in the '50s, Kevin. Oh, just because of music. I'm such a music person that I would have loved to see certain bands that came about in the late 60s.
Yeah,
Led
absolutely.
Zeppelin and the Doors and stuff like that. Just Jimi Hendrix.
Some of them, their lifestyle took them a little too early, and
unfortunately, yes.
And then others just went a little bit too longer than they should have. So by the time we got to see them, they were pretty much on their last leg and didn't sound that good, and kind of ruined their mystique.
Yep. Yeah. But I can still listen. Vinyl, that's a whole other thing. Boy,
yeah.
I have a good collection of vinyl
Me too.
as well.
I say thank goodness for the antique stores and the Goodwill stores. I could get my my $5 and $1 vinyls.
Yes. Yes. Oh, let's go down. Where's the boxes where the $3 boxes are?
Oh, yeah.
How much for this one? He goes, it's $3 now. I go, okay, cool, I'll take it.
Yeah, I don't even care. I went to an antique store the other day and I bought and I don't even care. I bought a Barry Manilow vinyl, and
cool.
I bought a Neil Diamond vinyl.
I love it.
And then I bought and this is funny because this is how weird my music selection is. I bought a Metallica vinyl and a Quiet Riot.
I love your taste. Those are perfect. That's mine right
And I
there.
think I spent like $30, and I don't even care. I was like, I would have paid more than that because I just wanted them. I went to a Goodwill store that's like probably like 10 minutes from my house, and they have like all these milk crates set up in the back with all people's vinyls and a lot of Christmas and a lot of old stuff. Stuff I don't really listen to, and I don't want to start buying stuff for the sake of owning it. So I was going through it, and then I found the 1970 first album, original, like not just original album, like the original album cover of Aerosmith.
Right. Oh, I love it.
And I was just like, it was a little chewed up, and I was like, I don't care. It was $1. The vinyl was perfect condition. It worked, and I was just like, I was so happy. Good. So I'm gonna start looking for these the plastic sleeves that they have that you can put the vinyls in to kind of protect them.
Yeah, good idea.
So that's what I'm gonna start doing because age is starting to take over some of these pieces. I mean, I got the Michael Jackson Thriller. Like I found that one. Oh yeah,
that's great.
I was just like, and then a lot of like the old Christmas stuff, like Burl Ives and.
I love it.
Yeah,
because you're Italian.
Yeah.
We had we had the Four Seasons, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. It's their Christmas album that we had when I was growing up, and there are some interesting songs. And I found that at the store over here, and I'm like, oh, I have to have that.
Yeah.
It gives me chills to think about it because it just reminds me of Italian dinners, my great aunt, that is not alive anymore, and her making homemade ravioli and meatballs, and it's just like, just family. It's just a family thing that reminds me of. And
absolutely. I mean, we try to do it here. Like, I know everybody's, every branch of our family has other family. So we try to do, we do for Easter, Thanksgiving, and
Christmas.
And Christmas, we have a Christmas party and a Halloween party, but the week before Easter and a week before Thanksgiving, we have another Easter dinner and Thanksgiving dinner where we invite all the family in because when the actual holiday comes, they're all going to be with their with my cousins and stuff like that. So and then I'll just have
sister's husband,
So I'll just family. So on the holiday itself, we either do nothing or we'll just I'll have my mother-in-law come and we'll just cook and stuff like that. But it's the week before that we do it.
That's
and
awesome.
And it's fun times.
We do the whole family on Christmas Eve. So ours is everybody on Christmas Eve. And then
I
on
love
Christmas
that.
Day, everybody goes to where they need to go to on Christmas Day.
Yep.
So it's just one big Christmas Eve deal.
Yep, that's the way I grew up doing. We all went to my aunt's house for Christmas Eve, and we all stayed up late. We couldn't open up presents until midnight. And then because it was like, if you want to take a nap after dinner, take a nap after dinner. You got to open up. We'd read the Twas the Night Before Christmas, and then we'd open up presents, and then when we get home, we had to hurry up and go to bed because Santa was coming in the middle of the night, and things like that.
Great?
So it was and you wake up Christmas morning, and I open up my gifts with my parents and my brothers, and so it was cool, and then. I did a couple years. We did like the midnight service at church. The candlelit things.
So did we.
So it
I did exactly the
great.
same.
And it's rough.
Yeah.
It's funny now because like you talk about it with, you know, I have nieces and nephews, and they're
Me too.
ranging from like 11 to 20, actually 11 to 31, and you know, the older ones they vaguely remember, but like the ones that are like 11, 12, 13, they have no idea. Like they see it on TV and movies, and they're like, "Oh, that looks fun," and we just laugh and be like, "Yeah, that was pretty much the way everybody did it." Like
Exactly.
like nobody would be on the streets.
I would always laugh. Hold on, Kevin. I've got UPS coming. I'm going to grab something from him. Thank you so much. Oh, that's big. Thank you. Sorry, Kevin.
No, it's okay. I've become accustomed to doing these interviews during this pandemic, and people are getting deliveries during.
Yeah, right. Well, my boyfriend ordered a huge canvas, and it is big. I'm still trying to get it through the door. Oh, and he left right when we started. He was going to go exercise and said, "Don't forget to watch for UPS." I'm like, "Okay." And now I don't have to watch anymore. Okay, now we're good.
That's all good.
Sorry about that. Anyway, yes, that's just the whole family thing. That's exactly how it was for us. Exactly.
Yeah. So let's get back to a little bit of you, because you know, you've done a lot of stuff even after Glow. I mean, Glow pretty much shut the doors in '89, and you've done a lot of. You know, I'm looking at Wikipedia, so I mean, if it's a little inaccurate, I apologize.
No worries. That's okay.
I mean, you've done a lot of TV, you know, some appearances and some pretty big freaking shows. I mean, you know, Jag, Days of Our Lives,
right.
Married with Children, Saved by the Bell.
That was great. Yeah, those were great. Well, you know what? Glow was really the stepping stone for all of that, because when we were on that show, when we did the conventions, NAPI, which is National Association of TV Programming Entertainment, which just means you're looking for syndication to be on other shows. Well, you know, all the TV shows are there, and Married with Children happened to be there promoting their show, and their executive producers loved us. They're like, "Oh my God, we love the show." I had no idea that when we were meeting them, no one said that we were going to be on their show. So I was just like, "Hi, nice to meet you, blah, 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 blah." That's it. They didn't tell us that they were interested. And then one day, I had my director said, "Hey, you and The Farmer's Daughter and Big Bad Mama have auditions for Married with Children." I'm like, "Oh shit, this is going to be great." So Kevin, the interesting thing about it is, when we went, usually when you go on a audition, I was used to having, 60 people auditioning for one part.
Right.
And so I got there, and I didn't see any other girls. And we went in and met with the two executive producers. But as I got into that room, everyone was in the room. It was all the writers, camera, director, everybody was in there. And I'm like, this is a different audition. Right. Usually it's just the cameraman and maybe a director or a casting director, whatever. That's it, 3 people. This was like 25 people. So now I'm more nervous. And we met them, and they gave us the lines, and they said, "Hollywood, you read this. Ursula, you read this." And then they said, "Switch the roles, go back to the first. Hi, see you guys on Monday morning." And I was just thrilled. I'm like, "Oh my God, they already knew that they wanted us." We just,
How far into that show? Like, how many years was that show on the air when you did that particular episode?
Let's see. So, I think we'd already been in for the season 1 and 2. So we're probably into our we're probably already into our 4th season, which is when that's it. We were into the 4th season. I know that for sure, because you have to remember who I was dating back then, and when we broke up, I'm like, it was season 4.
Yeah, because like after the first season, they were kind of on the fence if they were going to cancel the show. A lot of people kind of didn't like.
We just went into
didn't like the humor.
They didn't.
But after season 2, it seemed like people were like, you know what, this is kind of relatable.
Yeah, it just was something different. And you know what? Some people were thinking, oh, they're making fun of wrestling. And we were never ever making fun of wrestling.
Right.
We had our director, who was Matt Timber, who was from a film background. Then you had David McLean, who was really from the wrestling background, and he wanted it all wrestling, and the other one didn't. He wanted comedy in it. And then we had one writer. So, the stuff gets a little old after a while, but it was very hee-haw-ish, and it was different. So that promotion was different. That's all. It just had those rap songs that they wanted us to do, and the humor.
Now I'm going to have to go back and watch it again.
No, don't embarrass me.
I had to go because when King Kong Bundy passed away, a lot of people forgot that he was also a Married with Children. And I wanted to go back and watch that episode again, and it was it's some memories because I watched it when it was prime time, and I really didn't get it wasn't options to watch it whenever you wanted. It would play here and there on network TV at night. But now, like all the streaming services, you can just kind of binge watch whatever you want, as long as you want. So to kind of watch them now, to see them, and it was like, oh, wow. So some of the humor was just like, whoa, man, that would never fly today.
Exactly. There was stuff that we said on our pilot. There is a YouTube video that says, it'll say, I'm trying to think, 20 promos, I'm trying to word it right, that you'll never see in wrestling again. I am the first person that comes on and says the F word, because I didn't know what they wanted us to say or not. And he's like, say whatever you want. I go, what do you mean say whatever? I go, say whatever I want. This is when I'm just becoming the character Hollywood. I don't really know this character very well. I'm still trying to figure out who she is, because got to remember, that was a long time ago. So all I knew, I was a bad guy. I cheat. I do this. I do that. And so I started using the F-bomb, and boy, you will never see any promos probably like that ever again.
Definitely, not after we had the mid-90s WCW and WWE with the Attitude Era. You never see wrestling like that again, and I'm fine with it. Wrestling evolves. It's one of those businesses that evolves with the time. But it just seems
wonderful.
but it is for the business, but it doesn't seem to be great for the fans. They don't evolve.
No, they don't. They don't, but they my thing is, I always have said this, you never forget the pioneers and the pillars of wrestling. We just never do. I mean, there's a book, everyone knows the Mildred Burke book, The Queen of the Ring, and it's phenomenal. Then June Byers and Mae Weston, you just never forget them. If it wasn't for them, laying down that foundation, but every era, like you said, it changes. It changes a little bit here and there, and it's just, when we went to CAC and we were inducted into their friendship. I think it's a Ring of Friendship or something. You have a lot of younger kids or the younger generation that would come up. Awesome Kong was one. Gail Kim maybe coming up and saying, "Oh my gosh, we watched you guys. I wanted to be." Awesome Kong was like, "We wanted to be Hollywood and Vine," or "We wanted to beat up Hollywood and Vine." Me and my brother, I love hearing those stories from some of the divas to Melina, who I adore. I remember her coming up right away. I'm like, that's going to be a star right there. She's got it all. Melina Perez, and just seeing her come up, and and now today I love Sasha Banks. Don't ask me, Kevin, because I don't watch. I'm not all up on any of the current wrestling. I know some of it, but I don't know who our champions are so much. But they're awesome. These girls today, boy, they look great and they can wrestle. I mean,
they're allowed to wrestle. That's
it. They are allowed to wrestle more than 2 minutes.
I mean, back in the 90s and even the whole 2000s era, they were all great. They were all athletic. They all had the look. For the most part, they all knew how to talk. They had the ability. They just weren't allowed. Even if it was 2 minutes, some of the matches just were stupidity. It was just too much gimmick, too corny and carny storylines, and it was and too many nitpicking on people's personal stuff that they drag into the storyline. And it was just getting ridiculous. I'm like, how many people was AJ Lee going to fall in love with on the roster? I mean, it was just, and that girl can work her ass off.
Yes.
And it was just like they literally chased her out of the business with their stupidity.
That's a shame.
Yeah. So it
and
just,
that's the kind of
bad.
stuff I don't like either. I don't like any of that. I don't like any politics going on with all of that. Just let the girls be the girls. Let them wrestle.
Yep.
Let them do what they do.
But let them all wrestle.
That's what they want to watch. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but let them all wrestle. Stop with the same 8.
Yeah, I know.
You have like 40 women on your roster, but yet every week we watch the same 4 on Monday, and the same 4 to 6 on Friday, and the same 5 or 6 on a pay-per-view.
Right.
It's just like you have all these women. Like, stop. And the problem now is because now you have AEW, and you have Impact, and you have the NWA, and even ROH to a smaller extent. WWE is just buying up as much talent as possible so they don't go elsewhere. But then they kind of just stalemate their career for like 4 to 8 years.
Yeah.
It's
bad.
bad.
That's funny that you say that, because I remember when Glow was done and I had people saying, so are you going to go to WWE? I will be honest. First of all, two things. One, I'd already been on the road for 4 years, with Glow. I did the pilot in all 4 seasons. So at that point in my life, I'm like, I just want to be a 20-year-old. Let me live my life. I want to have a boyfriend. I want to go out. I want to party. I want to be able to come home anytime I want instead of having a curfew at midnight. You know what I mean? It was just like living with your parents. Seriously. You got caught drinking, whatever. There was lots of rules there as well, and I get it. I understand why they did the things that they had to do. I mean, you've got a director and, your producers, and there's 35 of us. You know what I mean?
Right.
So they kind of had to keep an eye on us. But I didn't want to wrestle anymore. However, when Glow was gone, once they pulled the rug from out underneath us so quickly, I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do now? This is what I know, and this is what I love. So both myself and another character, Lightning, we both decided that we would get into the indie scene, and I did a lot of that for a little while. So that's a lot different. That whole independent scene was much different than being on television. I was like... The poor Cheryl, probably a lot of those girls hated her when she went into, I think it was is it POWW? I'm trying to remember which one. Oh no, LPWA. When she went into LPWA, oh boy, did she get some shit from a lot of those girls. You're not a wrestler, you can't wrestle. So there was that, but we worked for like companies like WWA, PPCW, AIWA. There were some different ones. Memphis Ladies Wrestling, something in Texas I went to. So we were doing that, and then, stunt work came into play because Lightning. And so some of those things that you see in Wikipedia or IMDb are legitimate stunt roles. And I started doing a lot of that, and I'm like, ooh, this is very cool because now you're on TV. Now you're getting the whole royal treatment, plus you're getting paid a shit ton more money, and you're getting residuals on top of it. So there was that.
Okay.
So that's where you saw that. And then when WWE came to California, I had broken my leg. I wrestled some girl who threw me in some kind of jiu-jitsu move, and my leg was broken in 3 places. Fib on the right leg, and I remember somebody asking me to go down and to audition with WWE, and I went down there. But Kevin, I was only, I don't know, hon, I think it was 2 months into that broken leg, so I'm still limping. So I put on sweatpants so nobody would see all the atrophy in the right leg, and they were interested. Who trains you? And I'm like, Mondo Guerrero. Oh, Mondo, Jim Ross said. And, asking me these questions. And I just, again, here it goes back to the family situation. I told them the truth. I go, you guys, I'm right in the middle of a broken leg. Boop, that was it. So, who knows? Could have, would have, should have, but, I have no regrets at all.
No, I mean, you're doing very well for yourself. I mean, I just clicked on your website and a whole bunch of stuff just popped up that you've been involved in and still involved in, and so you're keeping yourself very busy.
I'm also trying to, writing my bio. I've been working on that, working with one of the writers from Sisterhood of the Squared Circle, with Dan Murphy, who is awesome. He's great. With this pandemic, everything seems to be slowed down quite a bit. There's another writer, John Cosper, and John has written quite a few wrestling books. He asked me to write a foreword for a wrestler who started in the 40s. And again, here you go when you're talking about the 8. Well, really, not really many people remember Elvira Snodgrass. And I'm writing the foreword for that, for this woman. It's a small book, but I'm excited to be, part of writing something on somebody that came before me, the pioneers before. And I didn't know anything about her. So reading this book is just unbelievable. Those women, they wrestled. Man, you watch those old YouTube videos of these ladies in the 40s. Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable.
I can imagine. Because women's wrestling for a long period of time, and probably up until maybe like 15 years ago, people didn't take it seriously. They kind of looked at it as like a time gap show. It just like waiting for the next match. So let's just put on something sort of entertaining, and it wasn't. It's not the girls' fault, and a lot of the girls people look back and they're like, oh, why they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame, or they shouldn't be considered legends. And look, these women had the ability to do everything that the girls are doing now, but they just were not allowed, or they just weren't used to their potential, and they should not be penalized because of how they were used.
Right.
So. And I say that about the Bellas. Like, everybody's all up in an uproar because the Bellas are going to go into the Hall of Fame, and I think they're.
And why shouldn't they? You know what? I'm all for it.
They're self-made women. I mean,
yes.
They took themselves from very green, obviously very beautiful women, very green. Yep. They improved year after year after year. They worked with the very best in the business to try to get themselves better. They branded themselves. They did the Total Divas show. Then they had the Total Bellas, and I mean, they are a worldwide phenomenon. You go anywhere, and people, even if they don't watch wrestling, they know who the Bellas are.
That's right.
And you know what?
They paid their dues.
Yep.
Yep.
And it drives me nuts.
I know. Look at Tina Ferrari. She started in Glow. She was a Glow girl for 2 seasons, and then goes to the WWE and becomes Ivory, and then is nominated in the Hall of Fame. That's fabulous.
Well, actually, there was a step in between that. I mean, she went from you guys, and then she was a Godfather's hoe. When she was with OVW, and then they used the OVW because they used her, Lita, Victoria. And she and Cynthia Lynch, which was Bobcat later in years, and they were all OVW developmental, and then they were Godfather's hoes before they became they came household names. Right. So I mean, now they which I think is great. I mean, obviously the Godfather doesn't for the most part doesn't do his thing. I think he does it maybe like once a year. But, they had a couple other wrestlers. The one guy had, the Congo line, and Adam Rose had his Rosebuds and things. And they would use, the local indie talent from the area, which I thought was great because it gave them a little exposure.
Exactly.
So, but...
Yeah, I love it. I always think you got to be someplace at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like, people go, how did you get into it? Da, 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 da. we were just at the right place at the right time. That's it. You know, I just knew somebody who was doing TV at the time. They were just little extras, and they said, you should try extra work. I'm like, all right, I have a regular paying job. I'm in the medical field, you know, making a good living. Okay, I'll go and try doing this extra work. So because I did this extra work and got with this company called Atmosphere Casting just happened to leave either I don't know if it was a beeper or a message on my machine, and they said there's an audition for a TV show. It's sports, but they wouldn't tell us what the sport was. And I was like, oh shit. When I heard wrestling, I'm like, I don't know anything about wrestling. I know every other damn sport, but wrestling.
It's like I've seen it. I just haven't done it.
Yeah, I've seen it, but I've never done it. And none of us had done it. Not one of us. Not one of those girls in 1985, okay, because that's when the audition was. None of us. We were all brand new, and there's Mondo Guerrero training us in the ring. And so they needed 12 girls. I happened to be one of the 12 that they picked, and we did the pilot. It sold, and then there's the story.
And as they say, the rest is history.
Yes, it is.
And
it's history.
It's, you know, and then they brought it back for a little while. Did they do something on Netflix or something with the
Okay, so here we are 32 years later. The reason it came on Netflix is because we had done a documentary, and the documentary came out. It was called Glow, the story of the gorgeous ladies of wrestling. And this was two fellas out of Texas. Their names was Brett Whitcomb and Bradford Thomason. Both of them were little filmmakers, and they thought, wow, whatever happened to that show Glow? So they started doing a little due diligence and trying to figure out who's what, where. And they came and they interviewed the girl who owns the rights. That's Ursula Hayden. She was our third farmer's daughter. They interviewed her, but then they met some of us and went, wait a second. Why don't we interview all of these girls and make a documentary? So the documentary was done somewhere in 2012. And then Gingy Cohen, who is producer of Orange is the New Black, saw that. And she said, I want to make a show out of that. So that is how Her Glow Netflix came about. So it is not a carbon copy. It's not exactly the same as our show. It's about our show, yes. But you know what? I always try to tell people they need to have, things different just to bring back the audience. Like our director wasn't doing blow. He was gambling, and if we were caught drinking or doing drugs, people were kicked out. They were done. They just hired somebody else and put you in the place. So these girls happened to have a little more leeway, and, that wasn't for us. We had a tight noose around our neck. Let me just tell you that. It was like, you didn't really say much. You did what you were supposed to do. I'm like, why do I have to keep wrestling the farmer's daughter every single week? Well, it's because her and I didn't really like each other. We went to the same high school. There was that insecurity and jealous BS between us, and we gave the best matches because, Kevin, those you know how that happened.
Yeah, I mean that seems to happen in the wrestling industry. You got a couple of talents that don't like each other, and they put on a great match.
Made for the best matches. Yep.
You have that inner animosity, so it comes out into your performance.
I know, it's great. So, I wouldn't change that for the world. Poor girl.
And I saw you did some work with one of our friends, and she was actually one of the first talents we ever brought out to a convention back in 2013, Angel Orsini.
Oh, isn't she a sweetheart?
She's awesome.
Yes. What a beautiful soul. Yes, I love her. Yes, she's a sweetheart. Aw. Yeah. Do you see her? I haven't seen her for a while.
I saw her, last time I saw her, I think it was about 3 years ago. We did an all women's indie show, and we wanted a couple of people of name to kind of launch us in, and she most definitely, she got back in the ring, she worked, and she also did another signing with us, and yeah, we keep in touch here and there. I'm pretty sure she's still in New Jersey. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah,
I met her at 365. What's the wrestling movie 365 that in New York at that premiere?
Was that the Evans movie 350?
Yes, Evan. Yeah,
350
yeah,
days.
Great. Yeah, 350 days. Evan
Yeah.
Ginsberg. Nice man. Nice guy. And that is where I met her. That's where our friendship started. And then we did some little movie stuff together for a friend. And, yeah, she's a good girl.
Yeah, she's awesome. And she's a perfect example of one of those workers that worked during a very male-driven era with ECW, and there really wasn't much for her to work with, and she didn't get her due, and I still say to this day she hasn't gotten her due.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, we had a long talk, her and I. We were driving from New York over to Connecticut, and we had a long talk about that. Yep. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, some of them made us names for themselves. I mean, obviously, Jazz went on to big things with WWE, and then NWA's Women's Champion, and Francine went on to do some big things.
I met her finally, on the East Coast at one of the conventions last year in Jersey.
Yeah, and
very nice.
Who was also there was and Jasmine St. Clair, and she went on. She's done tons and tons of movies and acting roles, and she's actually done a bunch of signings with us. As recently as in January, we did one in Los Angeles. She was with us.
Oh, good.
And I mean, but not everybody got that opportunity. You know, Angel, she didn't. She stayed on the indie scenes, did her thing, and but she
That's
definitely
what I'm saying. Being at the right place at the right time, and knowing the right person. I mean, for me, thank goodness it wasn't. It was just being at the right place at the right time. When David McClain when Mondo looked at everybody and said, "Which one of you girls can ram your head in the turnbuckle and land on your back?" Whatever the fuck that was, I raised my hand first. And David saw that and said, "That is what we want. Jeannie, this is how you secured your position in Glow. You weren't afraid to do it. That's all they wanted."
That's great.
It's that Italian thing, though, Kevin.
Yeah, definitely. You know, when they said you're hard-headed, literally.
Oh my God! Perfect.
So where can people reach out to you on social media if they want to interact, or even if they want soap?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So we all know about the lovely Facebook. That's Hollywood Productions there. But the easy ones are Twitter. It's @GlowHollywood. Instagram is @OfficialGlowHollywood. And if you're looking for soap, it's Hollywood Botanica. But you know what? All those three that I just mentioned, you can find all the links there.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you, Kevin.
Of course. You're welcome. And, yeah, I mean, I know we've spoken in the past, and we were talking in email, and you're like, I feel like we've spoken before. And
I did, for whatever reason.
Yeah, we've spoken on private message through Facebook, and and we also spoke in person
at the convention.
at Legends of the Ring.
That's right.
I forgot who you came. I'm either you came in with Captain's Corner with Nick.
No, it wasn't with Nick.
Was it with Ken?
Where was that at?
Was it Ken with
Marty?
Ken? Oh, Martin D'Amato.
Marty.
Yeah.
That's it. It's Martin.
Yep.
Marty.
So that's definitely when I walked over and said hello to you. And
thank you.
So
it's an honor to be on your show.
Thank you
for having me.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you taking the time and taking time out of your soaping.
Hey, I'm just waiting on I'm waiting on another package that didn't. Oh wait, that was the package. It was that and that. Yes, I will be starting soaping. Absolutely.
There you go.
Well, I look forward to seeing you again sometime.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, definitely, most definitely. I'm hoping
next year, probably.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. 2021, maybe we can do a little something in probably not the New York, New Jersey area, because since you were already here and people know you already.
Yeah.
So we'll have to bring you. We'll have to bring you somewhere, parts unknown.
Let's do it. I love it. Parts unknown will be perfect for me.
All right, and I appreciate it, and continue to be well and stay safe.
Yep, you too, Kevin. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
That was Hollywood from Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you enjoyed that interview, and we hope that you can reach out to her on social media, check out her soaps, her line of soaps, and jump on some YouTube and check out some old school Glow Wrestling from the mid 80s, ending in 1989. It was some cool stuff. It was different, there really wasn't women's wrestling going on in WWF back then. You had an occasional match with, early 80s, you had, Fabulous Moolah, Wendy Richter, Leilani Kai, Sensational Sherry, but it was like few and far between. And by the time you got to the mid 80s, it was like an occasional appearance by somebody. And that was really it. I mean, there was no women's matches on pay-per-views. There was barely to any matches on weekends. It was, a lot of them were dark matches on house shows. And, it was a different time. So to have an all-women's wrestling program on TV, it was pretty cool. And definitely different. And, it revolutionized. It might have been, if you want to say the women's revolution, that might have started the whole women's revolution, where you wanted to push women into the forefront when it came to professional wrestling. So we like to thank Jeannie for coming on the show and wish her well with all her cool stuff that she's going on. You can check her out. One of her websites, it's Jeanne Basone. Last name is Basone, but it's JeanneBasone.com. Check it out. And, of course, all the social medias that she mentioned earlier. And we like to thank our sponsors, as always. And we ask that you help control the nitwit population and have your friends spayed or neutered. On behalf of myself and the Damage 365 Radio Network, I wish you a great week. And we'll see you next Thursday here on the Indie Super Show.